Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
It is chilly out here on the patio, a little bit breezy, a lot cloudier. Today will be as much as 30 degrees colder than yesterday. I'll show you why.
We're also gathering brand new information on a huge law enforcement presence near Orange County. What we have learned in just the last 10 minutes.
Plus, 50 protests in 50 states. Protesters are gathering across the nation and in the Triangle in opposition to several executive orders from President Trump as you look live.
It is a quick weather pattern shift on our Wednesday here, bringing much cooler temperatures to our area this afternoon. And a good afternoon to you. I'm Jeff Hogan.
And I'm Renee Chu. Thanks for joining us. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is out on the WRAL weather patio with a look at some light rain that may develop as well. Not as nice of a day as it was yesterday, Elizabeth.
Not even close standing out here. You know, I feel a little bit wimpy because the temperature is 50. I pulled up the temperature and wind chill together because earlier this morning, you know, it was feeling like about 5 degrees cooler than the actual temperature. But I mean, you can see the wind blowing my hair around. So, you know, it feels like 40 in Roxborough, 42 in South Hill, 42 in Rocky Mount. It feels like 50 here in the Triangle. So it's not really that big of a difference that we're seeing. However, we're definitely feeling the potential for much cooler temperatures as we go through the next little while. So just be on the lookout. Temperatures this afternoon are definitely going to be cooler than what we saw yesterday. Yesterday, our high temperature was way up at around 80 degrees. And so just such a difference in what we're seeing out there for today. Let's jump ahead and take another look here. It's actually 45 in Roxborough, 56 degrees in Fayetteville. It's not that cold, but when you compare it to the 80 degrees, it's, you know, it really is big. So what's happening is we have what we call a wedge. We have a high pressure system that's pushing in that cool air right into our region, and it pushed all of that warm air out. I love this map right here. This is a computer model look at the wind, and you can see the wind coming out of the northeast in those blue shaded arrows. We'll push this ahead in time, and gradually, as we get through tonight and into tomorrow, we start to see that switch. By tomorrow, we may end up seeing our temperatures warming up a little bit. Watch what happens. We get into 10 or 11 o'clock tomorrow morning and it turns red and comes out of the southwest. So tomorrow may be a little bit warmer. Coming up, we'll talk more about the rain.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, we are following some breaking news this afternoon. A federal judge has blocked President Trump's effort to end birthright citizenship for children of undocumented migrants. U.S. District Judge Deborah Boardman, who you see here, said his order runs counter to our nation's 250-year history of citizenship by birth. Trump signed the executive orders that it doesn't extend to children born on U.S. soil to parents without permanent legal status. That would have begun February 19th. A separate federal judge in Seattle previously put Trump's executive order on hold. Boardman's ruling, unless overturned by an appeals court, will remain intact until she can issue a final ruling on the merits of the plaintiff's constitutional claims.
And more breaking news. A nationwide movement protesting the actions of President Donald Trump makes a stop in Raleigh.
Yeah, organizers are calling for 50 states, 50 protests against Project 2025. WRAL's Eric Miller is live in downtown Raleigh with some background on this anti-Trump movement. Eric.
Well, Jeff, this protest has been growing rapidly just within the last 30 minutes, and you can see it's now spilled onto either side of Morgan Street here outside of the historic state capitol. More than 100 protesters here marching, waving signs. This group protesting President Trump, and in particular Elon Musk. Folks calling for his deportation and calling out many of the actions that Musk and Trump have taken here in the first several weeks of Trump's second term in office. As you said, Jeff, this organized by the 5051 movement. This movement organized anonymously online through social media sites like Reddit, hoping to get protests in the state capitals of all 50 states on one day. You can see this crowd here now working its way across Morgan Street at this point. These signs, these chants echoing here across the state capitol. And again, the crowd rapidly growing. Looking around, we have people spilling in here from all directions. We'll stay on top of things here, let you know as they change.
Yeah, Eric Miller live in downtown Raleigh with that crowd that has grown. We see it from that Sky 5 picture right there. Thank you. We're also gathering information about a large law enforcement presence near the Orange-Chatham County line.
You're looking at a live picture near the intersection of Bell Circle and Woodbridge Road. Our crews have seen numerous FBI agents and local authorities there. Concerned viewers told us that this all started around 6 this morning, and an FBI spokesperson is headed to the scene. We'll continue to keep an eye on the story. Watch for updates on air, online, and on News Plus. Now to an update we've been covering for hours. 2 Johnston County deputies shot a man who threatened to kill himself and law enforcement. The man survived, but the investigation is ongoing.
Chelsea Donovan joins us live in Clayton right now, where this all happened. Chelsea.
Yeah, so right behind me is the home that these deputies responded to just after 9 o'clock this morning. You can see it there in the distance. Now, they did this after 2 911 calls from help from the family inside of this home that their family member was suicidal with multiple guns on him, and that this 21-year-old was going to shoot deputies who came to the home. Now, this is video that we shot earlier today and last night. I just listened to the 911 calls where a mother and a sister called for help after a family member was drinking and took several firearms from the shed out back, where he then proceeded, according to this call, to state that he was going to kill himself. When deputies arrived, the man was in a field behind the house with multiple guns on him. Johnston County deputies tried to talk with him and calm him down, but he would not comply or remove his hands from his weapons. Now, subsequently, 2 deputies were forced to discharge their weapons, resulting in this 21-year-old man being shot. Take a listen to these 911 calls.
He had 2 in his hand, and he put both of them up to his head. So he's like talking about shooting up the cops whenever they get here.
And
I just need help. I need somebody to come help because he's not listening to me.
All right, so right now this man is currently hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Those 2 deputies, they're on administrative leave with pay. That is standard protocol as the SBI now comes in to investigate. I just spoke once more with the Johnston County Sheriff's Office, who says right now this man has not been arrested and he could face charges, but right now they're classifying this as a mental health situation. We're live in Johnston County. Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News.
The United States Postal Service is once again accepting packages from China and Hong Kong. It's a reversal that comes less than 12 hours after the USPS announced it was suspending those deliveries.
WRAL's Chris Lovingood joins us now. And Chris, there's been that suspension, the tariff talk, and President Trump also made something else happen with his recent actions.
Well, he did. Essentially, along with that, this is something that goes back to a thing that 5 on Your Sight's Keely Arthur first reported on. It's called the de minimis threshold, and it's why companies such as Temu and Shein can sell products so cheap. Basically, when exporters send packages directly to consumers worth less than $800, they don't have to pay duties or even be inspected. But that opens the door for harmful items to get inside the United States. Things such as faulty hair dryers, harmful baby and toddler products, or even lithium batteries that can catch fire or even explode. President Trump effectively closed that loophole. Congressman Greg Murphy, who represents our state's 3rd District, praised that action, and we'll be hearing from him a little bit later tonight on WRAL. Now, mind you, the United States has received more than 1 billion low-value packages into our country, and so we're going to watch closely to see if that number goes down after the president's actions, Jeff.
Chris, thanks for that. 60,000 ballots called into question by the state GOP. Democrat Justice Allison Riggs defeated Republican Jefferson Griffin, but he's disputing the validity of tens of thousands of those ballots, including thousands from U.S. service members.
WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie joins us with reaction from Democratic lawmakers. Laura.
You know, of the 60,000 or so votes that are being challenged by Jefferson Griffin with the backing of the state Republican Party, about 5,500 of those votes were cast by overseas voters and military service members. State law does not require those voters to show photo ID. Griffin and the state GOP say those votes could be fraudulent and should not have been counted. Democrats say Republicans wrote the voter ID law, and these 5,500 voters followed that law, so they say those votes should count. Griffin is only challenging overseas and military ballots from 4 large counties that he lost. That includes Durham, the home of Rebecca Lobach, one of the helicopter pilots who died in last week's mid-air collision in D.C. Democrat Marcia Morey was her state house representative.
She served with honor and distinction. She was a, quote, brilliant and fearless patriot that has been reported. And tragically, she died a week ago today in Washington. She can't fight to have her ballot count, so we will stand here and try and do it for her.
Now, Democrats are calling on Griffin to drop his legal challenge and concede the race. After the initial count and 2 recounts, he remains more than 700 votes behind Democrat incumbent Allison Riggs. The Democrats wanted to move the case to the federal court, but the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, last night rejected that bid, so the case will move forward in state court instead. Republicans said they were pleased by that decision, and the first hearing in that case is expected to take place Friday in a Wake County trial court. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
More than $35 million is being invested in North Carolina's community colleges. Today, the president of the North Carolina Community College System, Jeff Cox, announced a new initiative called Boost. The grant from Arnold Ventures funds new student support services designed to help students who are at risk of not graduating due to circumstances outside the classroom.
Sometimes it's these little things where life happens that derail our students. So having a comprehensive set of supports around students can be the difference between them staying in school, finishing that degree, and entering the labor market where they can make a living wage and having to drop out.
15 colleges will be a part of the initial pilot program. The student support model has already been used in states like New York and Illinois. Cox says they plan to launch the program at all community colleges statewide if the pilot is successful. Next at noon, wreckage recovery, the recognizable parts of the airliner crash being raised from the Potomac River.
Also, employee rollbacks, why Walmart is cutting hundreds of jobs and shutting its Charlotte office.
And new flu numbers at 12:30. How high those numbers have risen in our state and the level of concern.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
Welcome back. Sky 5 is over the state capitol building in downtown Raleigh as we watch this protest growing. The demonstrators are acting in opposition to executive orders from President Trump, and we have seen the crowd growing by the minute. Eric Miller is there, and he'll have another live report for us coming up in 15 minutes.
Meantime, crews are pulling more wreckage from the Potomac River. The video from that scene shows what appears to be part of the American Airlines jet that collided with the Army helicopter last week. Authorities have now recovered all 67 victims. 66 have been identified. Crews have raised a large number of large pieces of that jetliner from the Potomac River, including the right wing, the center fuselage, and rudder. Family of flight attendant Ian Epstein will be holding a memorial service for him today in Charlotte. It'll be held at the Chabad Center for Jewish Life. His burial will be private.
We are waiting to learn the identity of a woman who was killed in a motorcycle crash. This happened around 9:30 last night on South Main Street in Wake Forest. An officer tried to stop the rider because a motorcycle had no license plate. The officer says the rider sped away, then hit a vehicle at South Main Street and Windsor Drive. The impact threw the rider off the motorcycle. She died from her injuries. Traffic is moving once again on US 70 near Princeton at this hour after a crash. Sky 5 flew over the scene around 8:30 this morning, and that's when part of US 70 was shut down near the intersection of Edwards Road after logs spilled onto the road. The road reopened just before 10. No word on the cause or if anyone was injured.
FBI agents and analysts are suing the Justice Department after the Bureau turned over details on thousands of employees who worked on January 6th cases. The list includes ID numbers, job titles, and the roles more than 5,000 employees played in the investigation. Cheryl Hubbard reports FBI employees fear the move may be used for possible retaliation or termination.
FBI employees who worked on the January 6th Capitol riot investigations under scrutiny. Tuesday, the FBI complied with a Justice Department demand, turning over information about thousands of agents and analysts.
What is happening here? First of all, it's horrendous what they're doing to this population of people who did nothing other than the work they were assigned, the lawful, appropriate consistent with policy work they were assigned on the January 6 cases.
According to sources, details on more than 5,000 of the FBI's 38,000 employees was submitted to the DOJ. Many agents feared that could lead to them losing their jobs. The DOJ isn't commenting. Tuesday, a group of FBI employees sued the Justice Department to try and block the release of their information.
I think it's necessary for them to stand up and defend themselves, and this is the proper way to do that at this point in the process.
The lawsuit alleges the very act of compiling lists of persons who worked on matters that upset Donald Trump is retaliatory in nature, intended to intimidate FBI agents and other personnel.
This is an act that will destabilize and really shake the foundations of the FBI and its ability to protect Americans for generations.
And that was Cheryl Hubbard reporting. Meanwhile, union leaders are urging CIA workers not to accept a buyout offer. The offer tells every employee at the agency they can quit their jobs and get about 8 months' pay and benefits. It's part of President Trump's broad effort to shrink the federal government and shape it to his agenda.
And it is Elizabeth Gardner's job to let us know when it's going to be 80 degrees, when it's going to be like 50 degrees, and just goes up and down. And just not a great day today, Elizabeth.
It's really hard to go from yesterday with all that sunshine and 80 degrees to today. Typically, it's 50 degrees right now. That's not really that cold. A couple weeks ago, we were having highs in the 30s. But I don't know, there's something about just standing out here right now. It just feels really chilly. So we're back to what the pattern is. So we have a high pressure, and you can see it kind of swinging across the Great Lakes. High pressure systems rotate clockwise. So in that position, that high is pushing that cool air in. I showed you that map a few minutes ago. The cold air coming out of the northeast, and then hopefully by tomorrow it lifts northward. And you can see that warm front there headed toward Memphis. That will lift up across our area tomorrow. We'll switch our winds, and at least we'll be back into the 60s. It's probably not going to be 80, but it'll be warmer than it is right now. This afternoon, we may have some rain that goes along with it, but it will be very light. You can see just a few isolated showers that start to pop up between now and 3 o'clock. Nothing on the radar right now, but it will be very light. Don't be surprised if you don't see it at all. You may wake up tomorrow morning to some damp conditions because at around 3 to 5 o'clock, there may be some showers that roll through. But by 7 o'clock, it looks like it's over, so it shouldn't be a big deal for the morning commute. We'll keep our eye on it just to be sure. But then we should see a little bit of sunshine tomorrow afternoon with warming into the mid to upper 60s. Right now, though, it is chilly out there. Live look at Apex, cloudy skies, 50 degrees. It's a little breezy. It's not really making a big difference in terms of a wind chill, but it's breezy and cool out there. Remember, it was clear last night, so a lot of folks got a chance to see the Starlink satellite launch there. Elizabeth Daly saw it there in Rocky Mountain and got a gorgeous photo of it. Thanks for sending that in. Go to WRAL.com/report it and send us your photos. Right now, it is 45 in Roxborough and in South Hill, 50 in the Triangle, 56 in Fayetteville, 54 in Clinton. Hour by hour forecast, we'll continue to see those temperatures falling by about 6 or 7 o'clock. We're back down into the low to mid 40s, and we'll hold it there overnight. Tomorrow, we're looking at 68. As long as we clear out and as long as that warm front is able to push this batch of cold air on out, we'll see temperatures that warm. 71 on Friday. I feel a bit more confident about that. I think by Friday, surely we'll have pushed that cool air out of here. But tomorrow, we're looking at low 60s in the north, low 70s down south as we see that warm front coming through. Saturday, we're going to bounce down to around 60 with some cloud cover. And then Sunday, we'll see near record highs. And so, it's going to bounce all over the place. But I'll tell you one thing that will happen once we get past Super Bowl Sunday is it looks like next week could definitely be cloudier and cooler. In the meantime, it's still going to be unsettled, even with these ups and downs. Warmer Thursday, Friday, Sunday. We could still see a little bit of light patchy rain. And I'll walk you through that coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. First to the market weight loss pill. Today on WRAL News at 4, the plans Novo Nordisk has for the drug and the plans for expansion for their North Carolina manufacturing facility.
And skyrocketing Duke energy bills on WRAL News at 5. The large price jump some customers are seeing on their bills and what the company says happened.
And we are following the breaking news in downtown Raleigh, where a protest against President Donald Trump is taking place. This is a live look from Sky 5. The crowd is growing by the second, and that crowd is on the move. This is on around Morgan Street near Fayetteville Street. WRAL's Eric Miller will join us live in 10 minutes.
Walmart is cutting hundreds of jobs and shutting its office in Charlotte. This is all part of a move to relocate employees to its headquarters in Arkansas and its hub in California. Earlier this year, Walmart unveiled a new headquarter campus just a few miles from its previous location. The 350-acre campus will accommodate more than 15,000 employees across 12 buildings. Nissan is set to reject Honda's bid to merge the two automakers. Combining the two Japanese companies would create the world's third largest automaker by vehicle sales. If the deal does fall apart, Nissan will be faced with having to reassure its investors it can survive on its own. The company's been facing increased competition in both the U.S. and China and has lost ground in the two markets.
United Airlines is set to become the first major U.S. airline to resume flights to Israel. Service from New York and New Jersey to Tel Aviv are scheduled to resume on March 15th. The airline also plans to add a second daily flight starting March 29th. United Airlines previously suspended all direct flights following the October 7th Hamas attacks. Music publishers are demanding that Spotify strip unlicensed songs from podcasts on its platform. The request covers music by megastars such as Michael Jackson, Prince, Kendrick Lamar, and Taylor Swift. The National Music Publishers Association says there have been at least 2,500 instances of infringement where artists were not paid.
The Hubble Space Telescope hit the bullseye galaxy, that is. Check out this picture, the gargantuan galaxy Leda. It has star-filled rings from a blue dwarf galaxy that went right through it. And thanks to Hubble, scientists now believe it has 9 rings, more than previous observations have shown for other galaxies.
You can see how that galaxy got its name. Back to the breaking news now, unfolding in downtown Raleigh. You're looking live at the crowd marching through the city, protesting President Donald Trump's decision since taking office. WRAL's Eric Miller is speaking with folks who are there. He will join us live for an update in just 3 minutes.
And also, more breaking news that's happening right now. In the last 15 minutes, we learned 50 more people have been diagnosed with the flu and passed away from complications. Ahead, a breakdown of the numbers and what many of these patients have in common. First, here's a look at your winning NC Education lottery numbers.
Now, breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Right now at 12:30, we are following the massive protest happening right now in downtown Raleigh.
Yeah, it's one of many protests across the country happening right now, opposing President Donald Trump and the decisions he's made since taking office. WRAL's Eric Miller is live in downtown Raleigh with the protesters. And Eric, this started right at noon. That crowd has really grown now.
Well, Jeff, it really has. It went from just a couple of people out here to now a couple hundred. There are so many protesters. They literally have the entire historic state capitol wrapped from end to end. You can see this crowd 3 to 4 deep on the sidewalks here. These protesters frustrated not only with President Donald Trump, but Elon Musk as well, protesting really an entire grab bag of issues. Everything from Trump's immigration policies to his executive orders to his trade policies to freezes on federal funding. You can see here, this is a largely an older crowd here this afternoon, but still hundreds and hundreds of people out here on the sidewalks. This, of course, was organized by Group 5051. It was anonymously organized through social media sites like Reddit. The goal of the protest to take aim at Project 2025. That was a hard-right playbook put together by political consultants leading up to the election in 2024. Many of that program's authors have become or have been nominated for positions in the Trump administration. Now, for people who think back to 8 years ago, the first Trump administration, this is a very familiar scene. We've talked to protesters out here who were part of those marches then, opposing policies during the first Trump administration. They're back out here yet again. And you listen to those chants. This is what democracy looks like. We've heard people saying, no Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA. Those chants very familiar from protests during Trump's first administration. We're hearing them yet again out here around around the Raleigh State Capitol. We're told at some point this crowd will march down to the legislative building to try to send a message to state legislators here as well. But for now, they have been making laps around the old historic state capitol building again and again. The march, the crowd just continuing to grow here this afternoon. We'll continue monitoring things here. We'll let you know what we're seeing out here outside the state capitol. I'll send it back to you guys inside.
All right, Eric, thanks for that. It's a live look downtown Raleigh right now. A senior Hamas official says he strongly rejects President Trump's Gaza plan. During a news conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump said the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip. That Hamas official said Trump's statements reflect confusion and deep ignorance about Palestine and the region. The official went on to demand President Trump retract his statements because such statements add fuel to the fire. We talked to an expert on the region, and Duke professor Bruce Gentleson talks about Trump's proposal.
First of all, it's not a Donald Trump property to decide, what kind of development should be there. It's a Palestinian property, and the Palestinian people want to be able to rebuild their homes. They want to be able to have jobs and schools for their kids.
Gentleson also says it is possible the next group of hostages set to be released by Hamas will not be released after this. Trump has cast doubt on how durable the ceasefire deal is, saying there are no guarantees peace will hold.
Workers at the U.S. Agency for International Development stationed around the world have 30 days to return to the U.S. The administrative leave starts Friday and applies to all U.S. AID direct hire personnel except for certain leadership roles. Hundreds of contract workers have been furloughed or laid off as the Trump administration begins to dismantle the agency. The National Institutes of Health has quietly resumed some of its activities that were put on pause by President Trump. The acting Secretary of Health and Human Services ordered a blanket freeze on all external communications last month. But the NIH has started reviewing research grant proposals in closed meetings. Hiring research trainees and recruiting study participants remains on hold.
We've been talking about it all morning long. Just moments ago, the state released new flu numbers, and it's clear a flu surge is hitting North Carolina. WRAL health reporter Grace Haba joins us now. And Grace, we are seeing more children with the flu now.
That's right. Very, very sick children. That's how one pediatric doctor right here in the Triangle is describing the patients he's seeing come in for treatment amid what he's calling a very intense flu season. As you mentioned, the state just updated its respiratory totals just a few minutes ago, and it shows hospital visits for the flu more than doubled in the past month. That virus now makes up 11.8% of all emergency room visits. Nearly 1,500 patients are now being treated for the flu statewide. Now, this is when we expected to see flu cases rise in our area, but one doctor with UNC Health notes that the increase we're seeing is particularly high this year.
The timing is very similar to pre-2020 flu numbers, although the amplitude or the height of the curve is a lot higher. So we are seeing more cases this year than we did see prior to the pandemic.
66 more people have now died from the flu. That brings our state total to 117 so far this season. None of those patients have been children, and the majority of them have been over the age of 65. Now, as for COVID and RSV, there is a bit of good news to report there. It does appear that both of those viruses have peaked for this season. And in fact, COVID is actually much lower compared to where we were at the same time last year. So, Renee, a little bit of good news there.
Grace, thank you. Right now, 5 people in North Carolina have tuberculosis. Numbers from the state show cases have increased in recent years, with 250 cases in 2024, up from 195 in 2014. Experts believe the spike is a result of COVID, in that that's when people miss preventative screenings. However, they add this number is no cause for alarm, just awareness. More than 75% of cases originate outside of the U.S. and are transmitted often in indoor spaces with a lot of people.
An aspirin a day keeps the doctor away. Not true anymore. The potential dangers of that daily dose.
Big money on the line. A look at the bets placed on the Super Bowl now that 38 states have legalized sports betting, including North Carolina. And let's give you another live look at the massive crowd that has gathered in downtown Raleigh. Hundreds of people have come together. They say this protest is against President Donald Trump's executive actions. This is all part of a nationwide movement called 50-51. That's 50 protests, 50 cities on one day, all around state capitals. And we're watching it happen right now in Raleigh. We're following developments, and we'll have another live report from Eric Miller, who is speaking there with the protesters. As excitement builds for Super Bowl 59, football fans are also hoping their luck will increase.
Gary Baumgarten takes a look at the surge in sports betting ahead of Sunday's big game.
Football's biggest night is also one of the top betting events of the year, with officials at the American Gaming Association expecting a record number of legal wagers on Super Bowl 59.
And that number for the game on Sunday is $1.39 billion.
Industry experts say the numbers could be even higher if they account for gambling between friends and family, like Super Bowl squares.
Look, that is a form of illegal gambling, but nobody's going to knock on your door and slap you on the wrist for doing that. Last year, we estimated that amount north of $20 billion when you include all types of wagers.
And there certainly won't be a lack of action to bet on. It's the second time the Kansas City Chiefs will face the Philadelphia Eagles during a Super Bowl. The Chiefs are also going for their third straight Super Bowl win.
I think Chiefs fatigue does not necessarily mean betting fatigue. You've got a really exciting matchup.
Sports betting is live and legal in 38 states, plus Washington, D.C.
Right now, today, 3 out of every 4 bets placed in this country are now legal bets.
Officials stress the importance of using legal operators and warn how to spot illegal prop bets.
Legal sportsbook operators only offer prop bets on things that happen on the field. Things that happen off the field, if you find yourself in an app and you're betting on something that's happening off the field, you're probably in an illegal setting.
That's Gary Baumgarten reporting, and you can watch Super Bowl 59 on Fox 50. Kickoff 6:30 Sunday night.
It's been said that music soothes the soul. New research reveals it also benefits infant development.
A fashion icon ditches her signature shades, the event that prompted Vogue's editor-in-chief to remove her eyewear.
And here's another live look at the protests in downtown Raleigh that started about 40 minutes ago and has been growing. It started around the state capitol building, and those protesters are on the move. We'll keep tracking it for you here on our newscast. Playing classical music to babies inside the womb might help with their development by calming their heart rate. Researchers studied pregnant women in their 3rd trimester. They found that unborn babies exposed to classical music have a more stable and predictable fetal heartbeat pattern. Once the music stopped, the stable heart rate continued. The findings are in line with other studies that found that babies in the womb appreciate the calming sounds. About half of Americans who take a low-dose aspirin a day may not be aware that the risks outweigh the benefits. Consuming aspirin every day was once advised to older people to reduce the risk of heart attack or stroke. The American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association reversed that recommendation in 2019, and that's because many were unaware of their family history. Kidney failure, clotting disorders, a history of gastrointestinal ulcers could make a daily dose of aspirin dangerous.
Our teacher of the week is on her 2nd career as an educator after spending several years working in finance and business. WRAL's Ken Smith introduces us to a Spanish teacher who speaks her students' language.
Mrs. Barbie Tyus, you are WRAL's Teacher of the Week. Congratulations.
That enthusiasm is why Shauna Barbie Tyers is such a hit with her students and her school community at Mills Park Middle in Cary.
What is it about teaching for you?
Oh, teaching is life. Teaching is life.
Barbie Tyers' life has taken her from her roots in Nashville, Tennessee, to Mexico, to here in North Carolina. How she became a Spanish teacher dates back to when she was in elementary school.
I was making fun of one of my teachers because we used to be so loud, and I was the ringleader. And she would count in Spanish. She would count down, and I would mock her. And she was like, "You need to stop mocking me, but you speak good Spanish." Mi vida escolar.
For Barbie Tyers, her Spanish class isn't just about the spoken word, but also helping her students appreciate different cultures, and one way she achieves that is through food.
We have our grocery table. Students have been looking at that and exploring, making those cultural comparisons.
Her goal is to always make sure her students are on a path to success.
I am so rejuvenated when I come inside this classroom, when I see my students, when I hear them using the skills that I've given them, and I know that they can walk out that door and they can use those skills today.
All thanks to Mrs. Barbie Tyers and her enthusiasm for teaching. Ken Smith, WRAL News.
Ken warned us this is going to be one of the best reactions ever. It did not disappoint. If you would like to nominate a teacher, you can go to WRAL.com and enter Teacher of the Week in the search box.
If only we could see all your reaction to the temperatures outside right now. We know what Elizabeth's reaction is.
Not pure joy, I can tell you that, Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's so hard to go from yesterday. You know, I was out for a run and short sleeve shirt. It was really, really nice. We're dealing with cloudy skies, Fayetteville, Raleigh, Apex, Chapel Hill. No rain falling yet, but we do have the chance mid to late afternoon to see a few sprinkles. Let's just look at our big picture again. That high pressure system, remember, is pushing in that cool air. We have that warm front that's between St. Louis and Atlanta, and that's where the warm air is. So the cool air is winning out right now. We're tracking that warm front down to the south, but it should lift northward back across our area to warm us up a little bit. I showed this map earlier, but this one really tells the story well, so I'm going to show it to you one more time in case you missed it at the beginning of the newscast. So the wind is coming out of the northeast. That is thanks to the high pressure system that is to the north of us, and so it's feeding that cool air into our region. But what will happen as we get into early tomorrow, we'll start to see our wind shifting. Watch how it changes from blue to red, and now it comes out of the southwest. That's going to put us back not to 80 degrees, but it should put us into the upper 60s to around 70, and then even into the mid 70s as we get into, say, Friday. As a matter of fact, you can see that warm front north of us. Our wind is coming out of the southwest, looking at a high of around 71 degrees on Friday. Now, that front will dip southward again on Saturday, so we're back to 60. That's still warmer than what we're seeing right now. Then it moves back northward. We're at 74 on Sunday, and that could end up being real close to a record high. Now, along this boundary, too, along this front, we're going to have the chance of a few isolated showers. We'll see some of that this afternoon and early tomorrow morning, and then another chance Thursday and again on Friday as all these fronts are passing over us. So let's look at this again, too. Right here from lunchtime to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a few isolated showers pop up. It's going to be so light that very little of that will actually measure in the rain gauges. Now, we may have enough rain tonight for it to be a little bit wet when you head out the door tomorrow morning. There's 7 o'clock, though, and that's when a lot of people are headed out, 7, 8 o'clock. It's likely to be fairly dry by that point, or at least the rain will have ended, and then the rest of the day Thursday looks dry. So it's 30% chance this afternoon, 20% chance Thursday morning, another 20% chance on Friday, and again on Sunday. So our chances for rain are pretty minimal. Now, Sunday, looking like a nice day to start with. We'll see a high of 74, the previous record 75, and in Fayetteville, a high of 78 with a record of 75. So pushing those record highs for Sunday. It should be a nice day. Once we get into the evening, say 7 or 8 o'clock, we might see an isolated shower come through. But if you wanted to grill out like before the game started, right now the timeline looks okay for you. Monday and Tuesday of next week, we're back into the 40s with some showers.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Fashion and drama, both are welcome at the Met Gala. The theme, hosts, and co-chairs collaborating for this historic night.
And you're winning Mega Millions numbers on your screen right now.
We want to go back to that breaking news we've been following since the top of the hour.
The 50-51 protest in downtown Raleigh, one of many protests across the country opposing President Donald Trump and the decisions he has made since taking office. WRAL's Eric Miller is live in downtown Raleigh right now. Eric.
Jeff, of course, the goal of that movement, creating scenes just like this in every state capital across the country. Here in Raleigh, we've seen hundreds of people marching for almost the entirety of the last hour. Within the last about 15 to 20 minutes, this crowd moved away from the historic state capitol and started marching down to the legislative building before turning around, starting to come back up and head back towards the historic state capitol. The view we're getting on the ground and from Sky 5 is that we really have protesters all over this part of downtown Raleigh right now. Talking to people who are in this crowd, this is largely an older crowd, a lot of retirees. And of course, this is a Wednesday at noon, so they are the folks who are able to be here this afternoon. A grab bag of reasons for being here as well. Everything from Trump's executive orders to the federal funding freeze to his cabinet picks and nominees as well. Of course, this protest is continuing. We're going to stay on top of it, bring you updates as we get them in here in downtown Raleigh.
Eric, thanks. The legendary editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine is rarely seen without her trademark dark glasses. But Anna Wintour ditched her signature shades for a very special event. King Charles III presented her with the Order of the Companions of Honor at Buckingham Palace. The honor is granted to those who've made a major contribution to the arts, science, medicine, or government over a long period of time. She received the honor for her services to fashion as well as fundraising for causes like HIV/AIDS research. Wintour is also well known for her yearly Met Gala Spring Fashion exhibit. And this year's event at the Metropolitan Museum of Art will feature a newly formed host committee with stars like Doechii, Simone Biles, and Usher. A$AP Rocky, Coleman Domingo, Lewis Hamilton, LeBron James, and